Lyme's disease is the disease that bugs me the most right now because it's really hard to diagnose, it's really hard to treat, and there's a lot of controversy about this disease. So I feel really, really sympathetic for people who are dealing with Lyme's disease. But it's documented that there's about 330,000 cases a year in the United States of Lyme's disease. This is not a number that's put out there broadly because there hasn't been agreement in the medical community as to how to treat it. And right now, there's no big money being made on treating it, unfortunately. If found right from the onset, it could actually be handled very quickly with your typical antibiotics. What I want to say first about this disease is that there's actually a lot of things that are always living in our body. So Lyme's disease can be one of them because it's so prevalent. Epstein-Barr virus, a lot of people, about 90–95% of people have that one. And so these things are actually there a lot. But the problem is that they're not exacerbated all the time. So when our life is off balance, then when we have stress and whatnot, then those symptoms get more exacerbated, and that's when we get a diagnosis and really notice it. And that's what one of the healers that I interviewed was telling me. So just to say that a lot of us have these things, and you can live with it if we adapt our lifestyle around so that it's not as intense for what's actually happening in ourselves. Now, when you're trying to diagnose Lyme's disease, it's very challenging, partially because it doesn't just live in the bloodstream, it's also living in the air in our lungs. And so you have to have the right kinds of tests. And again, not all doctors are in agreement on what tests or on the prevalence of this, and they're not all doing all of the tests that need to be done. There is a documentary called Under Our Skin. There's a version 1 and 2. I would recommend watching both of those, and I would recommend seeing if you can find a local doctor who's recommended by them, if they do that, who really is what we might call Lyme literate, to a very deep layer, people who are truly bringing results around and healing people. The movie is going to show somebody who's in a very, very progressed state of Lyme's disease, and she was able to completely cure it. And it is a certain set of antibiotics that she went through. I don't really like the idea of drugs. However, sometimes you have to weigh the risks in things. And the risk of Lyme's disease and the strength of that disease continuing, it's very, very strong, and it can lead to things like Alzheimer's and MS. So it's very serious what happens with it over time if you don't take care of it earlier on. And that's why this is the one case that I personally like the idea of somebody taking antibiotics. Now, there's other things that can show up in the system. I'm just going to switch over to my Word doc here so I can tell you this. One of the doctors that I interviewed for my book, he did get into detail on Lyme's disease, and so I will share some of the things, but there's something called Babesia, which is a parasite, which often accompanies the Lyme's disease. So it's not just Lyme's, but it's other things in the body. And there is a drug that he recommends that can help with Babesia. And then I wanted to share with you what are the natural things for if you really don't want to do the antibiotic route. I would recommend doing all the natural things alongside the antibiotics if you don't want to do the antibiotic route. The other thing I will say is, and this is my personal belief in spiritual things, is that if you get a true master of energy healing, then that would be another natural way that you could cure this. And you would have to really look around. I've never personally been able to do that for somebody, so I don't want to claim that I can. I can, of course, try and help you with that. And Here's the natural things that you can do. So this doctor that I interviewed is Dr. K.P. Stoller, and he does hyperbaric oxygen therapy with people, which is a very natural way to do things. So I believe he's in the Bay Area. And then there's a woman in Denver who has an energy genesis bed, which I have done, and it feels like the most beautiful meditation you're done with it. But you can search for either of those things in your area. Now, those are not necessarily going to be covered by your medical insurance. So that might also be costly for some of you and not as accessible. And just to remind you also before I keep going that I'm not a doctor, and I always just speak from my research, from my experiences, and from my intuition. But here's the things that have been recommended in the interviews as natural ways to help with Lyme's that are a little more accessible is herb thistle, cat's claw, salt, and vitamin C therapy. All that one you do want to do under the care of a doctor or a professional, and that one could possibly be covered by your insurance. Make sure that you're not having refined sugar, and then eat organic pesticide-free food. The last thing I will say on this, some of you might have seen the TED Talk from Lisa Rankin that I just posted on the Healing Happens page. So her big thing is saying that the body is actually a reflection of our lives. And one of the most important ways to heal is to just set up the life that we want in all the different areas of life that help us become a balanced person. So if nothing else, what little step right now can you take, even if you're in a challenging situation, to make life a little bit better? What person can you reach out to who puts a smile on your face, even a quick text message or a Facebook post? Let's see, like what flavor of ice cream do you love? And go get the ice cream. Ice cream's usually not good for you, but maybe for the soul it is. What do you like taking a bath? Go even spend a 5-minute bath. What can you do in 5 minutes, right? Everyone has 5 minutes that they can do something that's going to make them happy. But then start looking at the bigger picture. And of course, you can follow the whole goal setting series that I created for you a while back. You can either find those on my YouTube channel or my blog, and that will help you set up the steps to make what you want more achievable. So thanks for tuning in, and good luck with everyone who has Lyme's. My heart goes out to you. Bye-bye.